Uh, Joey Fatone.
NSYNC?
Yes.
You're forgetting the name of NSYNC?
We're cutting this out. We're cutting this
No, we're
out.
not. We're not. You're leaving this in.
Hey y'all, it's LJ here, owner and founder of Smart Moms Plan Disney and Smart Moms Travel. We are so glad you're here for another episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. Now, here's your host, Allie.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. I am your host, Allie. Today I'm here with Katie and Stacy, and we're going to be doing something today that has me so excited. I remember a couple of weeks ago, we released an episode and recorded and talked about thrill rides inside Disney World. And I remember it had me so giddy and excited. And I was like, this is totally my favorite thing about Disney. But as I was preparing for today's episode, I was like, oh, I stand corrected by myself. We are going to be today ranking what we as a podcast team, so us and of course our co-hosts Becky and Carla, sort of did an internal ranking of all of the Disney World shows. And we sort of classified the shows and entertainment as they have to be either a nighttime spectacular or they have to be a show that has, you know, its own theater or ride queue or kind of present like an attraction in that way, because there's so much Disney entertainment shows, pop-up performers, things like that around the parks. So in an attempt to keep it a little bit more concise, we came up with what we consider to be the top 10 shows at Disney World under our parameters, and then we're going to be ranking them. I don't know about you guys, but as I was thinking about these shows and kind of deciding what I was going to do, I was just so happy.
I am a little bit nervous about this, if I'm being honest with you, because so many of these shows are just amazing, fantastic, great shows that how do I not give them all 100?
Yeah, I feel that. And I felt that when I was going through it, you know, in places where on other ranking episodes, I've been able to take off points for specific things that, you know, we'll get into as we talk about these shows. I don't necessarily feel that way about these. As we're recording this, it is May, and I am really feeling that end of the school year chaos and fatigue. Have you guys seen, like, people are calling it Maycember now?
No, but that is a genius term.
Yeah,
I feel that. I feel that.
it's like that end of the year sprint, right? And I mean, I'm feeling it with kids in school. I'm sure you are as well, Allie. But Stacy, you're really probably feeling that end of the year, end of the school year sprint, right? With Jack going off to college soon.
Oh my goodness. It's my last of my 5 kiddos finishing high school, and we homeschooled. And so just in a regular homeschool year, other homeschool moms, I know you can feel this. It's just a lot. And for it to be my final time to the finish line with a homeschool year with my final kid, and they're all the feelings, all the feelings.
I was thinking about you as I was thinking about these shows because Jack is graduating and he's your youngest. And so you're really at this time of life where you are about to be empty nesters and all of your kids are adults. Now the kids in your life are grandbabies. And I think that alone is kind of an important part of what makes these shows so special, right? Because I have talked a lot about my little adventurous boy and how he's crying as he's hitting these height milestones and how being able to ride new attractions at Disney World is a huge deal in our house. He actually grabbed a tape measure yesterday and brought it over to me and said, "Can you measure me and see if I've got any new rides?" And like that's where we are. And the shows, they hold a place of like nostalgia, and they matter in a different way because they're what you can always do with your kids. So Jack, before he could ride any of these rides, and now he's graduating high school, like he probably sat and saw all of these shows.
Are you trying to make me cry? I wasn't expecting this so early in the morning, but you're right. I have memories, and we've talked about this before on one of our Animal Kingdom. The Lion King, the Festival of the Lion King has such huge things that I'm getting close to recycling these these experiences with my granddaughter, and I'll definitely have experiences with my older kids as well. So like, yeah, the nostalgia is connected to each one of these shows just as it is the rides. And it's thinking through this last night started me thinking how much I love these shows. And I actually even dreamed about one of them last night. I will not tell you which one yet, but I had a dream even about one because it just got into my brain and it just showed me that my deepest places in my brain are holding on to these memories to even bring them up in a dream. They're very special. They're very special.
Yeah, I feel like if you go to Disney and seeing the shows isn't on your list, like you're missing a lot, right? And I think kind of to speak to what we're all kind of talking about here, the fact that the entire family can enjoy the shows together, no matter if you're holding your 4-month-old baby or if you're going with your teenager who is about to graduate, or maybe, you are on a trip with the grandparents, like the whole family can enjoy it all the same, which is what I love about it.
My oldest was 3 years old the first time she went, and my twins were 4 months old, I think. And that trip to Disney World, my oldest went to Disneyland actually when she was just over 1. But if we're talking specifically Disney World, that they all had their first trip there together. And my earliest memories in these shows with my kids are that trip. Going back to talking about Maycember, right? And how like this week alone for the end of the year, I have beach day, field day, picnic day, and some other day that I'm going in for that I can't even remember. And it's like, I'm not upset about it. I'm actually really excited. I'm grateful that I still get to do these things. Like Stacy, you said, this is my last of my last. And like my kids are still really little. So I'm glad that I get to go do Duck, Duck, Sponge or whatever we're going to play on beach day. But like, it can feel so fast paced. And I think Disney can feel that way as well. And sometimes people think, oh, we should just skip the shows and run to the rides. But that break, they serve a break. They serve a purpose that's different. And they do make you slow down in a hustle and bustle. And they do make you spend more quality time than, running from lightning lane to lightning lane. Although you can have a lightning lane for some of these shows.
That's right. Everything you said about that is just right. I mean, the shows are such a huge part of our trips and our memories that it really, anytime I ever hear someone skipping one or having never, and there's one of these shows, I'll be honest when we get to it. Some of you actually talked me into trying, and I was guilty of that myself. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But it is, I hope if nothing else out of this episode, we have encouraged some people to give shows a try that they might not have tried otherwise.
Yeah, we talk how Disney is just rooted in nostalgia. And it's so funny because I'm rooted in a lot of these shows as a little girl. And now I have my kids planted there as well. Also, a lot of our listeners may already know this, but I own a dance studio. And other than Disney, dance is really my life's passion. And it's been part of me, and performance has been part of me just my entire life. And so I actually get physical emotions and reactions when I'm watching these shows because Disney just does it right. When I see live performers and I know the rehearsals, the audition process, the road it took to get there and be cast in a show like one of these, it brings out an emotion in me where my worlds kind of collide. And it's hard for me to sit without just a full impact of emotion.
100%. I not from a dance studio owner perspective, but from a mom of performers, I mean, like, it'll make me cry saying this sentence. Like, I get so excited watching these performers and thinking how proud their moms must be. Like, I just know the feeling. I know, and I'm like, they're doing so great, and I know how hard it was to get to this point, and I'm just so proud of them.
One of my dancers is a cast member down there, and she's in one of these shows that we're going to talk about. And she debuted her performance in one of them recently, and her parents flew down and surprised her. And when she came out and looked in the audience, her parents were there. And she had no idea they were going to be there. And it made me think, gosh, they drove her to all those dance lessons and they supported her journey. And then they were there on opening day and it was like a last minute thing. And I think that's why I'm so tied to these shows. And even if you don't have, these deep performance roots or whatever that I have, or that Stacy said she has, they're still so easy to respect the quality that the quality is out of control.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I don't have a dance background. I'm a terrible dancer, but I actually went to college for music. I have a similar kind of appreciation for the culmination of a show coming together and everything that goes into, nailing that audition, getting that role, and being part of that performance too. So I'm excited for us to talk about these today. I think that the three of us are really gonna nail it.
we're going to be talking about what we consider to be the top 10 shows. I love that this is really opinion based. I'm sure that there's going to be some glaring omission that somebody that loves to go to Disney said, hey, that show's the top 10 and you didn't talk about it. This is the top 10 as we see it in our expertise and experiences. But if you have a show that you love that's not on the list, please let us know and I'll let you know what I rank it. And you can
and everyone should know we actually debated on this for a lot of time yesterday. Like it was, this was not easy, not easy.
Yeah, we really had to come up with, what makes most sense for our listeners. And because this is such an important part of the Disney experience, like the shows and the live performances and the nighttime spectaculars, like they're rooted in what makes your Disney trip so special. So it was really important that we find a way to make this work and make it make sense for all of our listeners, especially if you're planning that first once in a lifetime trip. And so this is our top 10 list. If you've never listened to one of our ranking episodes before, the way we do it here on our podcast is we give each of these shows in today's episode a ranking, a number ranking 1 to 100 or 0 to 100. And the reason we keep it that broad is to really allow for differentiation between the final total as each of us are ranking them and give us a true top 10. I hope that you, if you've been to Disney World before, have seen these shows and will put numbers in your head and see who you most are compatible with. Because I do think it's always interesting. We always have different opinions on these types of things. And it's interesting how different our ranges and numbers can actually get. So we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to reveal the top 10 shows as we see them.
Hi, Smarties. Carly here from the podcast. You hear us talking about the right way to do Disney, but let's be honest. Taking notes isn't exactly easy while you're busy momming and on the go. There's an easy way to get all of those tips organized to simplify your vacation. Check out our 4-part guide bundle available now in our Patreon shop. Also, if getting guides is something you like to help with your planning, joining our Patreon as a Diamond Mine subscriber gives you a new Disney guide every month. Either way, we have got your back on knowing how to plan your park days so you feel like the expert before you walk in the gates.
All right, welcome back. I, again, am so excited to reveal our list and to give these numbers. I shocked myself when I was finished ranking my shows and giving everything my number. I really did shock myself. So I'm excited to hear what y'all did. I always have like a formula or a way that I'm coming up with my number. And for the shows, it's like you can't rank on entertainment value because they all rank so high, but I'm interested to see what you all did. So the first one that made our list here is going to be Beauty and the Beast live on stage. This is a shortened, abbreviated version, if you will, of the Beauty and the Beast story and musical. It's at Hollywood Studios. You can find the theater right in front of Tower of Terror down on Sunset Boulevard. It has a really big outdoor amphitheater space. And this show has been there a very, very long time. In terms of Disney shows, when I'm thinking about all the shows on our list and all of the shows that Disney has, this is the number one that is ingrained in my childhood. It was probably new when I was a little girl because Beauty and the Beast was new when I was a little girl. So I'm not exactly sure what year this show opened, but I would have been really young. It was our must-see. I don't know if it was because I loved it so much or because my mom loved it so much or she recognized that I liked it so much. But whatever the reason, she and I would always see it. And we went to Blizzard Beach. We used to go to the water parks all the time on our family vacations. And I may have told this story before, but if you're a new listener, I'm gonna tell it again because this show means so much to me. And this is an instance. We were at Blizzard Beach and my mom had looked, and back then it was probably park maps, like physical maps to see showtimes. Like there definitely wasn't an app. So somehow, probably a physical map, she knew what time the shows were at Beauty and the Beast that day. And she kept saying, we can make the last show. Like we have to leave Blizzard Beach by this time. And I was having so much fun on the water slides. And as it got closer and closer, she was like, do you want to go? Because it's the last chance. We'd have to leave right now. And we didn't have time to go back to the resort. And I didn't have any dry clothes. I only had my suit. And so I was like, I want to go. And so we left my dad and my brother behind. She ran with me. She bought me a pink t-shirt in a gift shop with a little black Mickey Mouse. And she still has that shirt, I believe, at home. And I wore that. I threw that on. We caught the bus and we literally caught the last Beauty and the Beast because our vacation was ending and we hadn't seen it yet. And that was just how important it was to us. It is such a good show. I mean, am I overhyping Beauty and the Beast live on stage?
I I like Beauty and the Beast on live on stage. I think it's great. I again like grew up, Belle was everything. Right? I still say that she's my favorite Disney princess. And I would tell you, I've caught like the Broadway version of the show. That's probably the show I've seen more than any other Broadway show is Disney's Beauty and the Beast. And gosh, do I love it. I think the live on stage version at Hollywood Studios is a good show, but I think that you have to take into consideration it's a truncated version of the show, right? Like you're not gonna go see a 2.5 hour Broadway production in the middle of your Hollywood Studios day, right? But that said, it is still that same kind of quality of show, which is what I love about it. Did you give a score on it, Allie?
No, I haven't yet because I really wanted to see where you all were. So here's the thing about Beauty and the Beast. So many of the newer shows include like special effects and Imagineering that is of the now, you know what I mean? That is just more relevant now. This is truly a Broadway show adaptation. This isn't including some of that like really special and unique Imagineering. It's a performance, it's a musical performance. And of this, I'm re-looking at our list, and it's really the only one like this. These performers are singing and they sound amazing. They are dancing and they're learning incredible choreography. I mean, I love the choreography. They are changing costumes. They're acting, it really is a full package and it's the only one of its kind. So I'm obsessed with it and I love it and I appreciate and validate the live performers. And I like that it's abbreviated and y'all may think I'm crazy, but I gave Beauty and the Beast live on stage a 98.
Okay.
Okay.
I love it.
You're totally allowed to do that.
What do you think, Stace?
Well, Katie, you didn't give your number.
I know. I was hoping you would give some feedback. I'm still unsettled on this one.
Oh,
That's cheating. That's
I
cheating.
feel that way too. I feel that way
Cheating?
too.
I'm trying. That's me being open to your conversation.
Well, and I was going to say the same for Allie. I was like, you can't wait to decide how you vote because you're going to try to adjust it to win.
Oh no, I've got all my numbers.
If you can sway me, then great, right?
Okay. Okay. Well, if you're going to play that way, that's fine. All right. So I think the negatives that I have about Beauty and the Beast are, hear me out. I have also seen the large performance, the Broadway style performance. It's so incredible. And having seen that first, it is harder to watch this version because it's so miniature. I really am sad. I'm like, that could be such a bigger performance. Like, I know it can because I've seen it. And so there's a little bit of like, oh man, like it could just be so much bigger, but it can't, not at Disney World during Hollywood Studio, and they're doing multiple shows. I mean, even an hour, like on the hour. So it's really fantastic, but I am always like, I really want to be our guest to be just like all over the place. And, but it's fantastic. It's really fantastic. So that is the only negative as far as the performance is concerned, is that I just wish it was bigger, which is actually a compliment. I also have a little bit of negativity towards the huge amphitheater is the metal seating, and it's hot. It's really hot. You can get seated in the front if you're early enough and be in shade, and that's great. And I have often intentionally chosen the little upper deck section in the back with the upper seating, but it's really hot back there. But I do it to try to, like, oh, I can get out first and be out of here quicker. So it's nobody's fault. It's just Florida. So I do not go see it every single time. I think everyone should see it once. And if it's a nice, cool day, you should go see it. But to me, it's really, really hot. And that was my first thought on it. And the first thing I wrote down, hot metal seats. But I gave it a 70.
I'm not even gonna argue. I think that's fair. You made really good points. I just my number really comes from nostalgia and respect for those live performers.
The number that I'm gonna give it, I was thinking a number lower than Allie's. And I was thinking of a number higher than Stacy's. I think I'm gonna give it an 85.
I think that's very fair. I think we all balance that out. I think that's going to make a nice little average number for it.
Yeah, it's a great show, and I agree with you, Stacey. It's honestly like I know my number is so high, but we don't see it now in my family every single time. Like we do prioritize some other things because I have some thrill junkies at Hollywood Studios. And it's just the makeup of what my family DNA is. And that's fine, but I do love when we get to see this show and when we work it into our plans, it's really great. Okay, let's move. Let's stay in Hollywood Studios. And Katie, you start us off here talking about our next one.
Okay, so next up on the list is Phantasmic, which is the nighttime spectacular at Hollywood Studios. It is a It's a fireworks show, but more than that, it's sort of like a water projection show with actors and dancers and so much happening in front of you. It's so cool. There are so many magical moments throughout the entire show. This is my husband's favorite show. He loves Phantasmic more than he loves Happily Ever After, which kind of blows my mind, but Phantasmic really is that good. It's a really good show too. The music is so iconic, the tricks that they do with Mickey and where he appears and how he appears. And I feel like this show has so many moments that make my heart soar, that are so empowering to me. Whenever, I am Moana, like, oh my gosh, like I get all the feels whenever Moana comes out on stage, and oh, it's great. And Elsa too. Oh my gosh, there's just so many great, great moments about this show that we love them so, so much. If I have to give Phantasmic a rating, I'm gonna give it a 94.
I like it. Shall I go next?
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with all of that and more. I love, love, love this show. It has everything. It is humongous production. Like it is a jaw-dropping amount of performance and special effects, and it is an absolute cannot miss show. The only negatives that keep it from 100 are that I have sat in that really huge theater in rain delay, in a rain delay, in a rain delay, in a rain delay, and eventually had to leave without seeing it. And that's nobody's fault other than just the weather. But it being an outdoor performance, you do have issues. Also, the gigantic amphitheater has its pros and cons. The pro is very rarely is it completely quote unquote sold out, and completely at capacity where you can't get in. It does happen, but you can almost always get in to see it. Now your seating may or may not be the ideal spot to watch it, but you're going to get to see it. So I do like that. However, exiting it is one of my least favorite things in all of Disney World. It's such a huge crowd to leave. But those are just so minor in comparison to the joy of this show. I literally tear up the whole show. I just love it so much. And then the finale is, I don't want to spoil it at all. I feel like social media has put it out there enough that most people know how it ends, but it is so beautiful. I just could eat it up. I love it so, so much. So I'm giving it a very high score. I will say it is my highest score of today. It's a 95.
I am shocked.
I'm also shook.
What?
Well, you know what? I'm going to remind me later to say something about that because I don't want to give anything away for my scores as we go. Okay.
Well, I want to know from Katie, why are you shook?
I know that you love Phantasmic, especially because you have that really great TikTok whenever they were opening Phantasmic again, and Disney shared you. Disney reshared your TikTok. It was a good one. What's your TikTok, Stace?
Well, they didn't share it. They did comment and like it. They thought it was great, which was amazing. Yeah, my TikTok at Stacy on the road. You would have to find it. It's pretty low down in the queue, but it is in there.
So
It is
good.
in
It's
there.
such a good one. Like I knew that you loved Phantasmic, but I still thought that
So you thought I was going to go like higher than a 95.
I did. I'm surprised by that. But let me tell you, Phantasmic is also one of my favorite shows and everything you all just said. So the parade of characters, you get to see snippets of every character, but you get like the best moment of them. And the fact that Elsa sings, okay, spoiler alert, just plug your ears for 10 seconds really fast. The fact that Elsa gets to perform Show Yourself is a huge deal for me because I'm obsessed with that song. And it's actually my favorite Elsa song, and it's not the one you would expect her to sing. So when they did the reimagining and that's what she did, but it's not just her, it's like the best moment of everybody. And more about the amphitheater, which you both kind of touched on. So you access this theater between the Beauty and the Beast Theater and Tower of Terror, and there's a really long pathway. It's kind of shocking to realize how big this designated space is. There's water and a huge mountain feature, and the seating, we cannot over exaggerate how big this theater is for the show. I will agree with you. When we all saw it together, it's been almost 2 years ago now, we had bad seats and it really messed with how the show was. And I think, no, you disagree.
Sorry about bad seats. We did not have bad seats that time.
But we had what I would consider bad seats.
For those of you that don't know, there is another theme park in the Orlando area that designates the splash zone. I did not know that Phantasmic had a splash zone, and I was sitting in it for one show.
I actually love that. So I would recommend that this is just a pro tip if you're using the dining plan, especially, but even if you're not, I personally would secure a Phantasmic dining package because it's going to guarantee that you have centered seating, which I find very important for this show. But yeah, it's perfection. I love fireworks. It's like dance and Disney and then fireworks. Like that's like the makeup of Allie. And so I actually gave Phantasmic a 99. It's almost,
I love it. Yeah.
I know. Am I shocking you? I'm usually like the cynical host where I'm given like 20s, but I can't help but just be obsessed with live performance and fireworks. Like if you combine the two, get out of town.
Do y'all love how it's such a crowd experience? Like even before the show, I know that this is such a corny thing. And if it's at a football game, sometimes I'm like, oh no, they're starting the wave. But they do the wave at, in the pre-show part of Phantasmic. And it's just really fun. It gets everybody in kind of like this unified experience mode. And I love the gasps, like when you talk about the different little things and people go, oh, and they, like just have spontaneous applause and like, oh, I love every single thing about this combined experience, this shared experience with the crowd.
Yeah, there are just so many elements in this show that really get you going. You cry and you laugh and you're scared and there's storytelling, and the storytelling is what makes Disney Disney. And this show has such beautiful storytelling that's thoughtful and thought through. And there's a clear, pattern of what's happening. That opening intro music, it gets me going. I'm so happy for the whole duration. You can't miss it. You have to see Phantasmic.
Absolutely.
All right, Stacy, then you go with our next one. We're going to take the Skyliner over to Epcot here and talk about something that I think is really unique, and I'm glad we included this on our list. This is festival music, so the Eat to the Beat concert series and the Garden Rock series, which are going to be different performances, and it's going to happen in that pavilion in the USA, the amphitheater in the USA pavilion during the Flower and Garden Festival, as well as the Food and Wine Festival. And Stacy, talk about it.
Well, and it's not just those two. Are we just only including those two? Or are we also including the Broadway special during the Festival of the Arts? So yeah, Epcot's festivals, they will have a musical feature in that amphitheater. And it's always surprising to me. I really focus on this in my social media a good bit because I love it so much. And it never fails that people are shocked. They're like, what? It's free. It's included. Well, because it's not free. We've talked about that on Disney. Free or included, right? It is included with your ticket into Epcot. Yeah. But yeah, they have big name performers showing up in these festival concerts. Just in this past year, I have seen Boys to Men and Commodores in a live performance in Epcot. And it was so fun. dancing, singing, having the best time. And then we're talking about a really up close performance. So very special, really just an amazing opportunity. They're 30-minute concerts and they are big names. Now, I did not rank this as if you can see a really big name concert every single day of the week. So they do have their bigger names on the weekends, and they do have more like local bands showing up on the earlier days of the week. They're just as great, but they're not necessarily going to be bands that you know, but they're fantastic performers as well. I think it's something you definitely, at a minimum, you need to look up who is going to be in Epcot during these performances when you're there, so that you can add it into your schedule, because these do have the dining options where you can do a dining package to get preferred entry. It's not necessarily preferred seating. There's not a section, but you get in before the line. And these lines can get very, very, very long, like shockingly long, to get in to see some of these big names. Then Joey Fatone.
NSYNC?
Yes.
You're forgetting the name of NSYNC. He was
Okay,
there
we're cutting this out. We're cutting this
out.
No,
we're not.
You're leaving not NSYNC. NSYNC was not there.
I know NSYNC
Joey
wasn't
Fatone
there.
was there.
No, we're leaving this in because listeners need to know that Stacy could.
Did I have horrible memory problems?
Joey Fatone, Lance Bass, JC Chazé.
Joey Fatone was there as a performer, and he did have special guest appearances by some of the NSYNC during his days there. So they are there for like multiple days. Anyway, you never know. You never know. Really fun thing. My score with the combination of hit or miss big names is a 70.
Yeah, I love that. This is a really unique thing that Disney does. You really hit on most of the points. My favorite would be those Broadway performers. Obviously, we've already talked about why. They actually bring Disney Broadway series actual cast members and performers to perform during the Arts Festival, which is really great, or the Festival of the Arts. And I do love that, I would have died. I was a huge NSYNC fan. I am a girl of the 90s. I will say most of these performers are kind of the 90s. Like you have Brian McKnight and, names like that, Boyz II Men.
Hanson
Hanson
was there.
Yeah, we have some amazing voices of the 90s, which has me just like grinning. And I don't know, Katie is the child of the 90s, and she's like furiously shaking her head no. I just don't know what you were doing in the 90s, but like if you weren't sleeping with a photo of Justin Timberlake under your pillow, like were you even a child in the 90s? Like, I don't know. I would have loved to have seen Joey Fatone there doing the bye 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 dance moves. I would have probably joined in, done them with him.
Oh, for sure.
But it's so fun, and they do have names you recognize. I agree with you, and my score was the same as you in terms, not the same number, but the same as you in terms of my thinking. Like it is hit or miss. I would only want to go if it was somebody I really loved and cherished from I don't want to keep saying 90s because it's not only 90s performers, but they do seem to lean into that.
Yeah, the Commodores are not the 90s.
Yeah, you're right. It's just not, it's more like people from the past, I would say, is what I should really say. But I keep leaning into the 90s because that's the people that are typically on the list that I resonate with. But it is fun. I love that they do this. It's such a I love outdoor concerts like that. In my soul, I love being outdoor on the lawn, with a drink, listening to live music. That is happy. Katie is still shaking her head no. Like, I don't know. What do you like to do if you don't like to go to an outdoor concert? Anyway, I named the outdoor concert series and the festival music because who doesn't love festivals and music? I gave it a 77.
Okay. I'm glad I went last for this one. Without getting too far into story time, the reason that I'm shaking my head so furiously is because you're talking about Stacy not knowing the members of NSYNC, and I was 1,000%.
Well, I do. I just don't. I don't recall very quickly, but I do.
Well, to give
Unlike
you even more credit, Stacy, I couldn't name any of them if you had asked me. I grew up a very quirky kid. I was never into boy bands. I was into K-pop before K-pop was a thing, okay? Like a solid 20 years before K-pop.
I know Katie is not just taking credit for the K-pop boom.
No, 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 no. I don't listen to it at all anymore. But back as a kid, like that's what I listened to. So I you can almost throw my score out the window on this because I am just not very familiar with really any headliners. I'm still quirky as an adult today that I just don't know a lot of pop music. The only concert I've ever been to ever was Maroon 5. And I love Maroon 5, but that's the only one I've ever been to.
I feel
So
like that's a band they could get one day.
Maybe down the road. Yeah.
I did grow up listening to the Commodores though, so whenever Stacy mentioned them, I was like, okay, I know that one. But I would say I'm basing my score on a festival that we didn't even talk about, which is the Candlelight Processionals, right? Those are all live
Mm.
performers too. So they usually get a chorus of, usually it's high schoolers, I think, because Becky's kids have actually had the opportunity to perform at the candlelight ceremonies there during the Christmas time. And they have like headliners that even I recognize for that. Oh, guys, I did not make it to whenever Josh Gad was the narrator for the Candlelight Processional. And it hurt my heart so badly because I'm convinced that there's nothing more magical than Olaf reading that script.
Yeah, amazing.
Like John Stamos, eat your heart out. It's all about Josh Gad.
Oh my God.
So I'm gonna give my score I'll give it a 75. But again, it's kind of out the window because I don't know many people. So there's your quirky Katie fact.
Well, you scored what we did.
You're telling me that if you were walking by and you hear somebody singing bye bye bye, you're not going to stop and do like the arm swing jump?
I'm gonna keep walking.
I guarantee you there are like 50 people around that stage doing the arm swing jump and then
Oh, for sure.
Sure, sure.
all right, that was festival music, outdoor live concert. Come on, that's amazing. And now put it at Disney World. That's fantastic. All right, we are going to keep going here. Our next show is another incredible one, as they all are. This is the Festival of the Lion King, and this is at Animal Kingdom. Perfect place for it, obviously. And, a lot of these shows are amazing. The nighttime spectaculars are like my favorite thing in most parks. When it comes to Animal Kingdom, I think more than any other park, the shows there are headlining as much as the headliner attractions. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And Festival of the Lion King is one of those, you're at Disney World and you feel it. First of all, you probably need a lightning lane. The line for this show gets so long during busy times of the year that you're either going to be waiting for a really long time. We were shut out of a show once. Like we were in line for a long time. They were like, anybody past this point won't get in. Or if you do get in, it'll be like really squeezed. And that's just not what. So it's a good use of a lightning lane, whereas some shows and some other parks may not be. This one, in my opinion and experience, is. This show has it all. First of all, The Lion King it's not like Beauty and the Beast in the sense that it's like a retelling of The Lion King. It's called the Festival of the Lion King. So it's a celebration of the characters and the music and the story, but it's not a Broadway retelling of the movie, if that makes sense. Do you think that's a fair kind of assessment?
I like that.
Yeah.
It incorporates so many things that other shows don't. This show is like Cirque du Soleil meets Broadway meets Disney meets story. You have acrobats, you have live dancers. Gosh, the dancers are so brilliant. Cast members that have audience participation, which Stacy, you mentioned, and you can talk about again, is a really important thing in your life. The audience participation of this show. And it's just one of those things where you come in happy, you leave happy, your kids are part of it, they're immersed, and it's a great show. Colorful, recognizable. The monkeys and the birds, my goodness, so amazing. Can't say enough good things. I guess the only bad thing would be it can be kind of hard to get into. Like it doesn't have as much seating as some of the other shows we've talked about. So like I said, Lightning Lane is a good use here, because I have gotten shut out. But for the show itself, I really don't have much negative to say. And I gave it a 97. Listen to my scores, you guys.
Look at you.
Can you tell I love performance?
Yes. Oh my. And I absolutely love this, and I don't have written down a number quite that high. And I cannot get enough of this show. It is something we have to see every single time we're at Animal Kingdom. It is beautiful. My first memories of it are the ones with my babies, my two baby girls, their very first trip to Disney. Animal Kingdom was new. Of course, the show, we had no idea what we were going to experience when we went in, and it was jaw-dropping. Just such the performance value of this show is I can't even think of the right adjective for it because it's just magical. Like everything seems a little corny that I say, and it's not expressed well enough. We had no idea what to expect, and just the entrance of the characters into the theater was emotional. It was so the whole thing is so well done. And then for this is what I have talked about on a previous show. I did cry on a previous episode where my little girls, my oldest little girl was only 2 years old with her little pigtails and her little pink t-shirt. And she was chosen because she had been so interested and so involved in the whole performance so far. She was kind of bouncing in her seat and singing along and loving every second of it that she got chosen at the end to march around the stage. I just cried, and it was just the most amazing thing. It's still such a huge, huge memory for our family. I cannot wait for my granddaughter to get to go and see this show as well. And which is this daughter's daughter. So it's just, oh man, my heart is so full for this show. I did only give it a 90 for some of the reasons that you said, because it is tough, and I'm trying to rank it in comparison to the other ones, but now I feel like I should have just let it be equal to some of the other scores.
Change it now.
I want to give a little like a little more insight and backstory here. Because I had mentioned I own a dance studio, right? And performance is so part of who I am. My student that is in this show, Stacy, told the story about her granddaughter, and that her family's like favorite character in the whole show is the snake, who they lovingly refer to as the green girl. And my dancer that I trained, who is now a cast member down at Walt Disney World, just debuted in the show, as I mentioned previously, and she was cast as
the green girl.
she's actually all four roles. She actually plays the snake, elephant, cheetah, and zebra. But for her debut show, she debuted as Green Girl, the snake. And so
Oh, wow.
keep an eye out on our socials, because we're going to try to do a little
Oh.
recreate with Stacy's grandbaby and my student. I mean, what a moment.
I just chill bumps. Really chill bumps. The conversation you and I had was so fun when you were like, "No, who was the character that was with your daughter?" And I was like, "The green girl." She goes, "Yeah, but I don't think it was this green girl." And I'm like, "No, it was the one, the snake." And you're like, "What? Okay, wait, it is the same."
Yeah.
It was such a fun conversation to have that realization.
Shout out to my green girl. Yeah, Zoe. She's great. Anyway, I love that show. Go ahead, Katie.
I also love the Festival of the Lion King show for all the reasons that you've said. I don't really have anything to add to it other than I also get this emotional tug on my heart of this like circle of life moment. And I feel like Stacy, like you're having a meta circle of life moment with your granddaughter being able to maybe have that moment too. Like, oh, that's so special.
Yeah. It hasn't happened yet, but we're working on it. We're working on it.
I see it pretty often as well, and I get teary-eyed every single time in that show. It's just such a good one. So I'm gonna give it a 93.
Perfect. It's layered with emotion and excitement, right? Like the kids are so excited because you know, most of the time in shows you have to sit quietly and be this respectful audience member that is watching and appreciating. And kids, for any Smart Moms travel agents listening today, the hidden Mickey will be excitement. Because that's what it is. The kids get to participate and make noise and be rowdy, and it's so great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Katie, you start us off with the next one then.
Oh, I'm excited about this one. This is another show that's also in Disney's Animal Kingdom Park. And I feel like this is a lesser known show. I feel like a lot of times people walk past this because they don't know what it is or there's not enough hype surrounding it. Listen to me. Stop what you're doing. Check the show times and get yourself to the Finding Nemo, the Big Blue and Beyond show. You have to see this show. It is just The costuming is out of this world. The performance is just, this is another one that I find myself teary-eyed and crying in. And it makes me like sit there with my kiddos and like hold them a little bit closer. I have shared previously, like, I don't think there's a bad seat in the entire theater for this show. And this is an indoor one where you can sit in the air conditioning too, which is really nice. But I don't think there's a bad seat in the entire auditorium. I've sat just about everywhere at this point because that's how often I love this show and go to it. But my favorite place to sit is there's like a lower section of seating and an upper section. And if you're seated in the upper section, you want like the first row of the upper section on the left-hand side. And the reason why I say that's my favorite spot is this is a show where some of the characters they'll make entrances from like off stage, or they'll come out off of the stage with like these like giant puppets and things like that. It's incredible. Anyway, we had a moment sitting there where Marlon and Dory enter from off stage, and they like were right there and they were interacting with my girls sitting in that front row in the back section, and it was definitely a core memory for me and I loved it so much. My girls, gosh, they talk about it all the time. They love it. But the colors and just everything, the music, everything about this show is incredible and you have to get there. I love it so much. I'm giving it a 99.
Whoa.
Wow. Wow.
It's that good. You need to get there. You need to get there.
It is. I mean, yeah, all the things you said, it is great. And I love the puppeteering aspect of it. You know, that to me, that level of creativity is what you want from Disney. You know, that's the most Disney thing about this, I think. And I really appreciate that. There's actually that show on Disney Plus. Have you guys seen that? The show where they follow one person who has a job at Disney within the Disney company. It's like a day, one short day or one day in the life or something like that. And it's pretty old at this point. It's like the show debuted with Disney Plus, I think. Anyway, one of the people that they follow is the puppeteer that does Dory, I think. And my goodness, like to see her passion for her role and everything that really goes into that performance, really you have to go watch it. And I think for me, the problem is that Nemo, don't crucify me, is just not my favorite Disney story. I
Oh, come
love
on,
it.
Ellie.
I mean, I do love it. And my oldest daughter went through a Nemo phase where it was like Nemo all the time. So I have that love for it. It's just not like The Lion King for me, you know? And so I'm trying to be comparative here. Still gave it a really high score because I respect the heck out of it. But you know, it's not The Lion King for me, but I did give it a 90. So I still think that's really high and really fair.
Well, and this is really making me question my scores because and I just need to say the reason I have my scores is because I put all of mine in my ranking for myself from top to bottom, and then I fit the scores in so that they would line up with where in the ranking I believe. So there's nothing negative about this show. I love this show as well. It is so bright and colorful. The music is so super fun. It has original scores in it. It's really an awesome, awesome show. And y'all, I used to be a puppeteer. I know it's hard to believe this jack of all trades here, but I was in the puppet ministry at our church. And so I know how to puppet. So let me just say these are pros, okay? I give them top-notch scores for their puppeteering.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Coming from my professional background. No, but seriously, I do love it's so impressive. I love the decision that Disney has made. And I don't know if they were the first to kind of do this in some of their Broadway shows or if it had I mean, I know street performers have kind of done this before, but it's that larger than life puppets that really are just so dramatic from the stage, so great. And with the live performers mixed in and costumed with their puppets, I do love every single thing about that. But, well, and before I go to my score here, can we just bring up, does anybody remember the Jungle Book adventure that was in this theater before?
No, I don't think I saw that.
Oh my goodness. And y'all were young because my children were young.
I do not think I ever saw that. I'm surprised I got rid of
Jungle Book.
that.
We have to find some old pictures of that and see how many people remember it, because it was a very short-lived production. I don't really know why it was so short-lived, except we did see it a few times and it was mostly hysterically bad. Like it was, and my apologies to any former performers who may somehow hear this, but it was pretty terrible and hysterical and
That's
like
why it was short-lived.
yes, and like so it was one of those things where the performers knew it was really bad, that they were constantly out of character laughing at themselves, and just it was a spectacle. Like I love finding people who have seen it, because you can just have this like laugh moment together. So we're going to have to definitely bring that up on socials. I really want to connect with the people who know what I'm talking about. But back to my score here. Back to the Nemo. Again, ranking it among the other scores, I gave it an 80. Don't be mad at me, but it's an 80.
I'm mad at you.
All right. I think we're halfway through our list here. This is so much fun. I can't believe how much of a theater and performance nerd I am being here. All my scores. We're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish out our scores and find out the ranking, the official ranking from our podcast on the top 10 shows at Disney World.
Hey there, friends. I'm Katie Boone, one of your podcast co-hosts. I'd love to invite you to join my Facebook Disney planning community called Planning Disney with Babies, Toddlers, and Preschoolers. In my group, I love discussing all the aspects of planning your magical vacation with little ones. Find my community at facebook.com/groups/Plan Disney with Little Ones. Again, that's facebook.com/groups/Plan Disney with Little Ones. When you join, don't forget to tell me you heard about my group on the podcast. See you there.
Hey, wait. I know you're ready to get back to the podcast, but I've got something very simple for you to do. Join my Facebook group, Disney Planning Made Simple. I'm Stacy, one of your podcast hosts, and I have a sweet, friendly Facebook group made for those of us who thrive in the simple pleasures of life, things like family, food, and Disney. Join at facebook.com/groups/Disney Made Simple, or follow with the link in the show notes. We'll be so happy to see you there.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I am going to throw to Stacy here. We're continuing ranking our top 10 shows at Walt Disney World. Stacy, we're going back to Hollywood Studios. Gosh, Hollywood Studios has so many shows. It's a really show-heavy park. So a lot of people, I feel like, steer away from it if they don't have thrill riders, because it gets this reputation of being the thrill park, which it is. But also, it has all these amazing shows. And the next one we're going to talk about is, for the first time in forever, the Frozen sing-along.
Yes. I have to confess, where I mentioned earlier that I learned something from my podcast friends back when we met, I had confessed early in our relationship I had never seen this show. And I have to say that the reason I skipped it is exactly why I'm hoping this episode will help other people, because I assumed what it was, and I was wrong. And so I'm hoping we can take assumptions away from everyone, and you can know the shows you really need to see, because this is one you really need to see. Now, the reason I had an assumption, there is a Beauty and the Beast sing-along, because it has the terminology of a sing-along in Epcot. I really don't like that show at all. It is so boring. It's a movie with, it's like popping in the old sing-along VHS onto a screen, and it's the bouncing ball. And I was like, this is it. What a waste of time. Like, I really don't go to that one. Okay. And so don't go to that one. So when this show came up as a sing along, I was like, well, I'm not going to do that again for the longest time. Like, literally until this podcast was born, I had not seen this show. And then all of you convinced me, no, it's not that. It's so much more, that I finally saw it and I was blown away. I was like, what? I cannot believe I have missed this. I have deprived my children of seeing it for so many years. And I feel like this is a spoiler heavy experience that I don't want to share all of the things that make it so amazing. I hope y'all will consider that as well. I want to protect some of it. But it is hilarious. It is so, like, I feel like it's a dad show, if we can use that. Like, it's a skeptic show, I guess you could say. It is the show where you can come in and be entertained as an adult. It is comical. It is fun storytelling. It follows along with just knowing this fun story, which makes it really great. And it truly is a sing-along. Like, you do have that crowd experience together where you're all just singing and yelling out the quoting the movie, and it's super super fun. So again, I know this is lower than some of you may do, but I was putting it in the rankings and I gave it an 85.
That's too low.
I know. I get that. I get that critique. I just, now you know why I did it though.
So Frozen, yeah, you said dad show. You know, we don't have a dad in our family. Well, I have a dad, so there is a dad in my family, but my family that I have, you know, we don't have a dad. And I'll tell you right now, my wife is obsessed with this show. This is her favorite thing in all of Disney World. She cannot get enough of Frozen Ever After. She's like so mad if I plan the day and I don't work Frozen Ever After into our plans. For the first time in forever. I'm sorry. I was referring to it as the ride name in Epcot. No, for the first time in forever, the sing along is what I'm referring to. It is the greatest. It is so fun. This is one of those things where you know how you get an animated movie every so often that you're like, oh, this one's for adults. But you know, your kids have no idea and your kids love it, but there's all this adult humor 100% threaded throughout this. This is a comedy show. More than a sing-along, it's a comedy show labeled and masked as a sing-along so that your kids can go in and belt all the words to Frozen that they know and love. And it's great for them because they need to get their energy out and they're allowed to stand and sing and belt. And you know, it's hard to find places to take points off because the cast members in this show, what do they call themselves? The storytellers of Arendelle or something.
Historian.
Yeah, Arendelle historian. They are so flippin' funny. I mean, like under your chair, die laughing funny, in my opinion. They're great. My dad is really cynical. And here's where it comes like what Stacy said. This is a dad show. My dad is so cynical. And like normally I would take him to something like that and I'd be like, oh, he's gonna think this is so lame. Although he's a sucker for Disney things, so maybe not. He was like legit laughing in this and said it was like one of the funniest things he'd ever seen. He absolutely loved it. But it still has threads of the Frozen story, but it's such a back layer, you know? Don't you kind of feel like Frozen is like the back layer for your kids, but they feel like it's the front layer. Like your kids will feel like we're in a Frozen attraction, and then adults feel like they're in this comedy show that is woven with Frozen. I don't know. It's just so beautifully done. It's so wonderful. And then of course, spoiler alert, you do see your Frozen friends. Who doesn't want to see the Frozen friends? Like it's a huge part of Disney in my opinion. So I really couldn't find areas to take it off, and I don't usually tie things. But I did give this number already once before, but I'm also giving, for the first time in forever, the Frozen sing along, I'm giving it a 98 as well.
Whoa.
I love it.
Whoa. Okay.
To sort of speak to what you both have talked about on how this is a show that is like for adults, but the kids will enjoy it too. I have to say, as a parent and even just as an adult, I'm a really big stickler on wholesome entertainment, right? Like I don't like whenever you have a family show and there's jokes that are inappropriate that go over kids' heads. Like I'm not game for that at all. More like that the Bluey. You know how Bluey is like the whole family loves watching Bluey and we all get something out of it and it's completely wholesome. That's how the entertainment value is here for the Frozen sing-along show too, right? I have said multiple times I would go see it even on an adults only day. And, you know, I put my money where my mouth is. And my husband and I had a date night at Hollywood Studios last month. And the two of us, went to go see the Frozen sing-along. It's just that good. And we had an amazing time and we sang and it's just so good. I love that this show, I can have these really cool moments with just me and my husband there, and I can also have really cool moments with me and my girls there. I will share a spoiler that, you know, at the end of the show, your ears if you don't want to hear this, it snows. And my kids, listen, they grew up in Pennsylvania and they miss the snow as much as I do. So anytime we have a chance to even get imitation snow, we're all over it, okay? So we love it. It adds to so much of the magic of that show as well. I am giving this also a 99.
Whoa.
You know what, too, about that snow part, and I'm so sorry for any spoilers, but about that part, it does bring the Frozen element, like, oh my gosh, this is a great Frozen attraction. But that's the moment that I'm craving at Disney, like where I look over at my kids
Yeah.
and they're catching snowflakes and they're singing and I cry. I mean, come on, I cry every
Yep.
time.
Yep.
It's just too good. So you leave cooled off, you're not hot anymore. You've laughed, you've cried, you've sang. It's perfect. Okay, I'm debating if I want to start the next one or not, but I don't think I do. I think I want Katie to start the next
Oh,
one.
you want me to start this one? No pressure. No pressure at all. Okay. All right. So the next one on our list is the iconic, the amazing, the uncomparable to any other show, Happily Ever After. This is the nighttime spectacular that happens in Magic Kingdom. It is complete with projections on the castle of all of your favorite Disney films, songs from all of your favorite Disney films. The fireworks are incredible no matter where you watch them. They have projections down Main Street now. That was an addition that happened after the 50th anniversary. There's I guess, spoiler alert again if you don't want to listen to this part, but there's a moment towards the end of the show where Tinkerbell soars from the castle. And so this is the quintessential Disney experience. I tell all of my clients, a lot of my clients are people traveling with little ones, and they say, my kids are really afraid of fireworks on the 4th of July. We don't think that we're going to stick around for the fireworks show. And I beg and I plead them and I say, no, this is so unlike your 4th of July fireworks show. It's really something totally different and it's so magical. And I really feel like kids are less afraid because of the projections and the music and everything sort of culminating together. But this show just hits you straight in the feels. Like there's no escaping how perfect and how magical it is, and the storytelling is just incredible for it. We see it every time we go. We watch it on YouTube every day. We love it with every fiber of my being. I love Happily Ever After. And on this show that I don't believe in giving a perfect. That I don't give a perfect to anything. And I'm giving 100 to Happily Ever After.
I could actually cry. I'm not even kidding. Like thinking about Happily Ever After. A little backstory. I grew up, my dad produced fireworks shows. It was like he was the music, he put together the soundtracks for this massive fireworks show we have here in Cincinnati where I live. And anybody that's from this area will know this Labor Day fireworks show that our city does. It's massive. He helped choreograph and direct and produce that show my entire childhood. And so fireworks became something that just meant a lot to me. And I saw differently than I think anybody else, right? My experience with fireworks was never just standing in a field and seeing a couple shells light off. It was always a grand show with music, feeling, and storytelling. That's always what fireworks were for me. And so they're just part of my makeup, right? And so Happily Ever After, the music starts and they have narration and familiar music I cry the entire show. They use everything to their disposal. I read somewhere the amount of money they spend per day on this show is, I think it's in the 5 figures. Like it's out of control expensive to put this show on every single day. And they use everything to their disposal. The castle, the buildings on Main Street, the spires like to the side of the castle. They have choreographed the fireworks to, please, I'm so sorry. I don't want to give spoilers, but I just have to acknowledge some moments of this show, right? Like at the very beginning, there's like a star firework that shoots across and lands in the castle on a perfect beat where the star then lights up. It's so perfectly synchronized, choreographed. What it does to me to see this show and to hold my kids while I see this show, and when I'm not there with my kids, I have a hard time watching this show because I miss them so much. The music they picked, they found a way just to nail it, and you see the characters projected on the castle. There's the fun section, the villain section, the emotional section, the colorful section, the projections, the castle comes to life. And then, of course, I love a moment that comes to fruition along with its music. And so the moment that Katie was talking about with Tinkerbell, it's this overlapping of the song Happily Ever After, where we all have the courage to fly. And then the background layers with Peter Pan, you can fly, you can fly, you can fly. And then boom, there, and I'm going to cry thinking about it. It's so perfect. It's so beautiful. It's so Disney. It's what I love. It's perfect. Of course, it's a 100. Of course, it's a 100.
Easy 100.
Find anything wrong with this perfect experience. And if your kids are afraid of fireworks, I would encourage you to watch this show from behind the castle because it is less busy back there. You will miss the projections and you will miss some of the really important elements that I love about the show. But if it gets you to the show and everything, like that's a good strategy.
Oh boy. So I actually have teared up hearing you talk about it. Like the two of you just bringing up the show, I can hear the music starting in my head. Those first few notes I just get choked up. I can't add anything. Like, and I agree with you about the synchronized music and firework is one of my favorite things. Like for there to be like I love a good musical montage. And this is like a musical montage of firework. And like when it's so perfect like that, my heart is just melting. It just oozes and loves this so much. However, I didn't give it 100.
What are you doing?
I know. Well, and it's so highly ranked. Like I really wish we could say I could truly out of my top 3 when we finish with this, they're really interchangeable in my ranking. And like there are some days I could say this is my 100 forever and I gets the top, and then another day I see another one. That's why I hate what's your favorite, because depending on the day what it is, and this is in the mix of that, right? So as I was making the list last night, I did not put it at the very top only because I was trying to be logical on this. And I would say the only negative is the crowds. The crowds make it difficult at times. It's so crowded and people are lining up for it so early, and it's on social media all the time. Where's the best place to see the fireworks? Where's the best place? And yes, there are some places that are maybe a little bit better than others, but what's so great about this show is you can be in so many different places around the park and love this show. Like it's still, you're not going to have a bad place. However, it's tough. It's tough at times. You've got all the stress of the parents fighting over their spot and putting kids on their shoulders and, hey man, you got to put your kid down because my kid can't see behind you. And there's just all that little stress leading up to it. That's just like, and then when you're trying to leave, it is a mass exodus that feels way too much, which by the way, you don't have to leave right then. So just hang back, go ride Space Mountain one more time, whatever it is, like just avoid that if you can. So saying all of that, I still give it a 95.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be mad.
I am.
You couldn't even give it like a 96.
Okay, you want to change it? We'll make it a 96 for you. Okay, 96. I'm fine with that.
Put a 96. Don't you dare put 95. That's too low.
There are just so many good things.
What a show. You have to see it. Oh my goodness. Okay. Is it still on Disney Plus? Can you still watch Happily Ever After on Disney Plus?
I don't think you can. I've been looking for it.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to find it on YouTube or something. Okay. Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. Again, back to Hollywood Studios with another show there. This is our 4th show we've talked about here at Hollywood Studios. This is a really old show. The show's been around for a really long time, and it's the only of its kind, at Disney World. This is a stunt show. They're doing all kinds of cool. I mean, who doesn't love to watch somebody do these like tricks that seem so daring, or you're like, how did they do that? I think most people, I bet a lot of people haven't seen this show if I had to guess, but I would also guess a lot of people know this show from like Full House, like they go to see it in Full House and some of those 90s sitcoms that would do their Disney Day. I know, like I remember it, and I remember seeing it a lot growing up. My kids, I don't think all 3 of my kids have seen this show, which is a bummer because I know how good it is. We just don't always take time in our day to do it. And I wonder with the new Indiana Jones movie, if this show gained a new audience, like did it bring Indiana Jones back to life more so? Is he more relevant to kids now? Do they want to see this show? Because I'm really glad it's still there. And I love the history it has within that park. This theater is like on the side of Echo Lake there. So you kind of walk in the park and it's all the way over to the left. If you keep walking past the Frozen Theater and on toward Star Tours, that's kind of where it is. So it has a nice little area carved out for itself with a good outdoor amphitheater. And like I said, this is not a musical or a dance production, but it's like an adventure and stunt production that I really do like. But again, we don't carve out a lot of time for it. It doesn't hold a lot of relevance for my kids. And so for that reason, I gave it a 66.
Okay. Well, As I mentioned earlier, I ended up having a dream last night about a show because I was so thinking about this morning's recording, and it was Indiana Jones. It could have just been that I really wanted to just see Harrison Ford in my dreams. So, because it wasn't the Disney version of Indiana Jones in my dreams. It was definitely Harrison Ford. And I'll say that was not my first Harrison Ford dream. Anyway, love the man. So I have a real big
Shout out to Harrison Ford.
yes. I mean, goodness gracious, love that man. Okay, so Indiana Jones it goes way back in mine and my husband's dating history.
Cool.
We watched all the Indiana Jones on VHS back in the day when we were dating. There was actually even we could get a sponsorship here. Hello, McDonald's. McDonald's back in the day, there was a time where you could go through and if you bought a combo or whatever, you could buy an Indiana Jones VHS for like $1 or something. And so we bought all the VHS and we watched those. So I have a real soft spot in my heart for Indiana Jones. We also named a daughter after Harrison Ford. So when I say I really, really love this show and it has a real special place in my heart, I'm being very real. Now, that being said, it's not my top ranking score here, so don't worry, but it's so great. It's one of those real performance based in a different way. Like you had mentioned, it's not a song and dance. It is these athletic, incredibly well acted performances, and it's got incredible special effects. I always like the behind the scenes type of shows. And I really miss, speaking of shows, I really miss Lights, Motors, Action for the same reason with the stunts. Oh, who else misses that show? But it kind of is that kind of vibe, and it's really, really fun. Do they have audience interaction anymore? Do they call them up on the stage
still
like they used
do.
to? I kind of feel like they don't. They do? Okay. I know they didn't for a moment during the COVID time, but that's great because years ago, my sister-in-law went up on stage and that, so we had that too, where she was able to be involved and we laughed at her and it was just really fun. Now it's a hot theater and it's not just hot because of Florida. It does have fire elements in the show that I feel like just build up over time as they're doing this performance, and that heat kind of gets trapped in there. So it's not like, hey, let's just go sit in and cool off for a while. But it is shaded and they do have large fans running. So they are trying to keep that air circulating. But I do love it. And I did rank it in its place with an 80.
That's fair. You're really making me like, I got to prioritize getting my kids to this show.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't usually prioritize getting myself to the Indiana Jones stunt spectacular. Sorry.
Yeah.
I do love Indiana Jones. I think like the IP itself is incredible, and Harrison Ford, hello, yes. That is a name I know, see? But it's a show that I've caught a handful of times because you all know I didn't start going to Disney until I was an adult, right? So what's disappointing to me about this show is there's 3 scenes to it, and it is really cool that they walk you through each scene. But the last scene involves an airplane or something where they're trying to get away from the bad guys, right? And 2 out of the 3 times that I have seen this show, they've said we've had a technical error and we can't do the last scene of the show. And I'm like, well, that's a letdown.
Yeah,
Right?
it is.
So, I do think it's cool, and it's for me, if we're walking by and the show's about to start, then we'll hop in, but it's not really something that I plan my day around. We have to go see the Indiana Jones show, right? I'm gonna give it a 75. I'm sorry.
No,
That's fair.
it's okay.
And look at our scores on these shows, you guys. We're barely going like under the 70. Like I gave a 66 to Indiana Jones. We're really so high, and it just speaks to the quality and value in these performances.
Yeah.
And maybe it just speaks to like I'm a sucker for this stuff. But that's going to change our conversation now to Luminous, the Symphony of Us. This is the brand new fireworks show at Epcot, and I have a big bone to pick with this show. I don't like this show. And I'll just start by saying that. And it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've already explained my love for fireworks and choreography and music and storytelling. And Luminous, in my opinion, misses the mark on all of that. I really, truly felt when I was watching it that Disney was like, how do we make an emotional show and make people cry? And where they're normally just so genuine and that's what makes it work. Like I cry the entire set of Happily Ever After almost, you know? And it's just from pulling raw, real emotions out of the stories they already know. And here in Luminous, they're trying to tell this story about family and friendship and the symphony of you and what makes your life's orchestra, you know, thing or whatever. And it was just like so random. Like one of the lines said, one day your duet will become a solo. And it was like trying to pull at your heartstring and make you cry because your significant other will pass away someday. And I was just like, this is not genuine to me. This just feels like we're trying to get a cheap tier. And I didn't pull one out of me. I didn't cry. I don't think that the fireworks themselves were out of this world. There was one really pretty moment I remember, but like nothing stand out. They have that body of water there. So again, I'm just going to give a shout out to the West Coast World of Color, which is a West Coast Disneyland show in a body of water, really similar to that in Epcot. And I just don't understand why we're missing the mark in this show. Where are the drones? Where are the projections? Where are the water features? Where is the spectacular show? And if you're going to produce something new and it's going to follow Harmonious, which was the 50th anniversary show at Epcot, it should be better than Harmonious. It should be on par with Happily Ever After. And you have in my opinion, the tools you need for it, like the built-in theater with the you know, it's there to do something Disney level. And I just felt like this was a cheap pull for emotion and a cop out of a show. I don't like it. I don't think it's that good. I probably need to see it again and temper my expectations. But my first impression of the show, because I have only seen it once, was just like, wow, I did not like that. But it was still fireworks and it was still a nighttime show, so it got some points for me. But I gave it a 48.
Ouch.
Yeah, I get it.
Stacy's over here nodding, and I'm over here like,
I get it. And we were together in fairness. So we were in the same little vibe with it. We were kind of
we probably influenced each other at the end. Like I remember we looked at each other and we were like, did you like that?
I know. It was like, what did we just experience here? And I agree. It's very contrived. Like it's very I remember liking a song, but I don't remember the song, you know? So like it didn't stick in my head, but I do remember going, well, this one's okay. And then I remember one firework element that I was like, oh, now that was cool.
Mhm.
But everything else I was like, and it's not, to be fair, it's not small, but there was something about it that made me think this is small. Like it felt like it would, like you had to be up close to really appreciate it. And I know that's not true, but there was just something about it that I felt like it just kept staying in its same space. And I was like, this is such a humongous open area. It could be so much bigger. I don't know. I feel like everyone should see fireworks to end their day. So in that respect, I'm like, yeah, you should stick around and have it in your eyesight, but don't go save a seat for it. I don't know. It's just maybe once go sit and watch it. Otherwise, take the time to go ride some rides because the crowds are going to be lower. You know, like I will probably never really sit and watch it again. I can't say that because I will with other people who want to see it for the first time. But I scored it even lower than yours. It's a 40 for me.
Mhm.
ouch.
Just sad to me. It's so sad because I love fireworks so much. I had such high hopes.
Well, and you know, they are having a very short-lived drone show at Disney Springs, and my hope and dream is that they are practicing to make it something that they can bring into Epcot. That is my that we should have had a drone show by now. I mean, like seriously, it's no this park that's supposed to be about these very futuristic aspirations and growth and technology and moving forward. We should have we Epcot should have been the first Disney drone show, and that we still don't have it is what is taking so long, Disney?
I hear you on all of that, and I feel like you both made very solid points. I do enjoy Luminous, the Symphony of Us. What I enjoy about it is we talked recently in a recent episode about Epcot character meet and greets. We talked about that feeling of coming into Epcot and you're at the front of the park, you're standing in front of Spaceship Earth, and you're hearing this theme that keeps playing. And it resonates so much in my heart that it makes me feel inspired and want to go do more. They're at the front of the park. They take that same musical theme and they put it in this fireworks show for Luminous. And so that's what I really like about it. And that's probably just like, the music nerd in me that I took all the music theory classes and everything. I'm like, oh, I recognize that. I like it, right? Like it scratches something in my brain. I like the show. I think from a storytelling standpoint, Luminous, the Symphony of Us, I think if you're taking it from a very individual standpoint, the storytelling misses the mark. But if you're taking it from a standpoint of the Symphony of Us means all of us as a society and how we have this shared experience together of life, it's kind of a very big concept. It's kind of meta and large. I like the storytelling, but I understand why most people it misses the mark because it doesn't have those feels like Phantasmic or like Happily Ever After does. Like it doesn't connect strongly to you as an individual, right?
But I feel like they were trying to, like I feel like
Oh
they
yeah.
were trying to connect to you as an individual. And that's what I think is a turnoff for me.
Oh yeah, there is a whole committee that is really sad to know that anybody feels this way because they definitely did not intend for this to be the result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy the show and I'm kind of coming at it from a similar standpoint to Stacy of if you're in a park, you should see the show, right? If you were comparing this show to your local 4th of July fireworks show, this is still way above and beyond that. But compared to other Disney fireworks shows, it kind of leaves us wanting something else. The other thing about Luminous, though, they have what Becky calls the techno tacos that are these like projector screens, and they had those for Harmonious, and I loved Harmonious, but the drawback of that show was you had to be in like one of two positions on World Showcase to get a view through like the portal in the center, which people didn't like. So whenever they reconfigured those techno tacos for this show, they made it so you're gonna have the same viewing experience no matter where you are around World Showcase Lagoon. I like that they did that. However, the storytelling still does miss the mark. I'm not gonna go as low as a 40 or a 48, but I understand why a lot of people it doesn't do what they're wanting for them to do it with it. So I'm gonna give it a 62.
Yeah. Yeah. Just so indifferent about that show. Okay. 10th and final show we're going to talk about here today. And then we're going to get our order of the top 10. So I'm so excited. I mean, I think I know what number one is going to be, but I'm excited to see how all these fall. Last show we're going to talk about is, I'm going to throw it to you, Stacy, Mickey's Magical Friendship Fair. It's our last show.
This is a really sweet, fun show on the castle stage in front of the castle. Great photo op, catchy songs, really a feel good vibe with the whole Magic Kingdom thing going on around you. But it's not my favorite. I have watched it walking through or from a distance. I think it's because it's at the hub that is crowded and kind of chaotic feeling for me that I just don't want to go back there. I just don't want to enter that area. I don't know. It's probably not fair that I'm judging it this way because I would say I probably have not even stood in front of this show and watched it all the way from beginning to end. This is the show that when you're in the distance and there's fireworks during the day and you're like, whoa, am I missing a firework? Or was that an accident? Or, like, did somebody push the button too soon? And this is that show. This is that show. It's probably not a super fair critique that that I have really just like watched it and taken notes kind of a thing. But, it's, if you're nearby and can catch it, I think it's probably good to see, but I would not put it on my schedule at all. I would definitely continue riding rides and watching other performance-based things like Laugh Room and, I would do that before I would do this one. So I'm going to give it a 50, just kind of middle of the road here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Allie?
You go next on this one.
Okay. I side with Stacy on this is a it's not a show that you're like stopping your day to go find this show, right? It's one that if you happen to be passing through the main hub whenever it's going on is usually when you're catching it, right?
Mhm.
I do think it's a great show. I also love that they bring out Tiana for this show and she sings and everything. And I'm so excited that Tiana is getting more of a presence in the parks, that we're seeing her more, especially with the opening of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I'm so jazzed for that. So I love that they are in this show. It's a great way for you to see Mickey and everything, but it's just not a show that you're stopping for. So I'm gonna I'm gonna give it a 73.
Yeah, Friendship Fair, you guys really hit the mark on. The show does not have its own theater. The castle stage is its stage, And so when I think about my hottest moments in Magic Kingdom, some of them are standing to watch this show. And it's hard to see, the stage is kind of up high. So if you have a little one and there are a lot of people gathering, it's hard to see. And so I end up holding my kiddos. I do have twins. So that can be a problem. Like if my wife is getting us food or something and I'm there alone with them, which we do that sometimes, that's hard. And so I love that this show is there. Like I think it's so in the right place, to see Rapunzel, Tiana. This is where you see Elsa, like in the park. And so to see all those characters at the castle performing with their crew and the Fab Five is in the show, it feels very correct. I'm glad it's there. I wouldn't want to see the show go away, but it doesn't present like some of the other things we've talked about. There's not a designated place to sit and see it. It really is if you're walking by, catch it. And so for that reason, it's hard to place it as high as I did the others. But like I said, I do love that it's there. I am really inspired by this show. I love to see the performers dance on the castle, and the choreography is always so cute and fun. But yeah, it's such it's a weird one for me. So I do love it. It's not my favorite. I am going to give it a 78 for including characters and using the castle backdrop and stage so well, and for being fun and uplifting and seeing fireworks during the day. Like there's a lot of good things to say, but a lot of bad things too. I can't believe how high I scored all these shows today. Like I am so not myself when I'm talking about these shows because it was hard for me to want to take off any points. And I'm excited. Just while Katie is doing our calculations and putting these in order, I don't know the order they're going to be in, neither does Stacy. Katie's working our calculations right now. I want to throw a few things out there. Number one, I know that some people might be like, where's the parade? The Festival of the Fantasy Parade is not something in our conversations that we considered really a show. This is like a pop-up performance. This is something that travels throughout Magic Kingdom. I just want to be clear and say to all of our listeners that we do think that the Festival of the Fantasy Parade is a must-see. It's one of my favorite things in all of Magic Kingdom. Like when my family did our 4-park challenge recently, the parade is what we decided to do once we were there. It's so good. But it didn't fall in what we considered the category of a show performance. It's more of like a traveling pop-up, right? And so
It's a parade.
yeah, it's a parade. It's different than a show. So that and some of the other pop-up performances like the janitors at Epcot or the barbershop quartet on Main Street. Those are things you want to see, but they don't.
We also have to mention Command Performance. Hello.
Yeah, these are the things that you want to see. There's entertainment everywhere you look at Disney World. Yeah, these were just our top 10. So some of our other special shout outs also include, if you want to make a note for your trip, the Voices of Liberty, which is a singing group in the American Pavilion at Epcot. Feel Our Magic.
Philhar
Music and what? Philhar Magic, like Philharmonic.
Yes.
I know.
Let's feel our magic.
I always say it wrong, but I know it's like Philharmonic, but it's Philhar Magic, but I always say Feel Our Magic. I don't know why it presents that way to me. The Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor in Tomorrowland, great, hilarious, fun, especially if you love Monsters Inc. Good audience participation. The Bird Show at Animal Kingdom, which my wife just like fell in love with, which is so funny because she doesn't really like Animal Kingdom or birds, but she's growing to love it and she loves that show. You can find those times in your app. And if there's something else we didn't talk about, because we didn't do every single show, if there's something you love, please let us know. And if you want to hear more about shows, maybe we do an episode about the undiscovered or underrated shows and we rank them, let us know if that's something you'd like to see.
Yeah, there's definitely two of my shows that didn't make that mention list.
Do you want to tell our listeners what those are or save them for the next show's episode?
I'll save them for the next one.
Yeah, because we had a hot debate about some of the stuff Katie wanted
Y'all,
included as
we
a show.
talked about this for hours and hours and hours. And you all know how I feel about some of these shows that I've already talked about on the podcast, but we'll save it for another episode.
All right, before we give our top 10 here, I just want to again give a big shout out and thank you for listening to today's episode. And if you're listening because this episode dropped right into your feed, wherever you listen, that means you're a subscriber. So you mean a whole lot to us because subscribing to our podcast only takes a couple of seconds and it helps us more than you can possibly imagine. If you love this show and you want to be a help, please do that. Subscribe so that it comes to you every Tuesday. Turn on your automatic downloads. That's even more of a help. Turn on your automatic download so it's downloaded. You can listen wherever you are, even on a plane. And if you want to go the extra mile, you could check out our Patreon. You can find the link for that in today's show notes. Come over there, get exclusive content and guides and conversations with the podcast hosts and other listeners. It's just extra helpful. So we appreciate all of that. And Katie, we are ready to hear the order of the top 10 shows as ranked by us today.
Okay, I'm excited to be able to give the top 10 list because this is so fun. All right, so at number 10, probably no surprise to anyone, Luminous, The Symphony of Us got an overall score of 50. Next up, we have Mickey's Magical Friendship Fair, which is that show on the Magic Kingdom stage, at a 67 was the score we gave for that. And then number 8 is Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, coming in with a score of 73.6, followed by the live festival music at Epcot, the Eat to the Beat, the Garden Rocks, any of those live shows happening there in the American Pavilion. Those got an overall score of 74. Are you guys surprised by that?
No, I like that. That feels really fair because they're not super like Disney. But who doesn't love festivals and live music? Like it's such a different experience than Disney immersion.
Yep, I think it landed just right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then for number 6, we have The Beauty and the Beast live on stage at Hollywood Studios. That one got a score of 84.3. And then here are our top 5. And I'm happy that these ones made the top 5. I think it makes total sense that these are in our top 5. Okay, so starting our top 5 is Finding Nemo, the Big Blue and Beyond got an 89.6. Then we have Festival of the Lion King coming in at number 4 with a score of 93.3. And then number 3 overall was, for the first time in forever, the Frozen Sing-Along got a score of 94. How are y'all feeling about that?
I feel great about it. I'm so happy right now.
Yeah,
I'm a little surprised that I would have flip-flopped Lion King and Frozen, but I'm not
they
mad.
were close. They were really close, within 0.7 of a point. So,
yeah.
Yep. Okay, now our number 2 is going to be Fantasmic that you can see in Hollywood Studios with a score of 96. And our number 1 overall pick, no shock to anyone at all, Happily Ever After, the Nighttime Spectacular at Magic Kingdom got a score of 98.6.
I think more than any other ranking episode we've ever done, I feel like we nailed this order so hard. Like there's nothing in there like that snuck in that I'm like, that should not be in the top 5 and I'm bitter. I feel so good about this list. Like nothing snuck out of order. I feel really strong about it. I think we really paid homage to the different types of performers that are involved in these shows. And oh God, I'm so excited about this. It's so fun. I hope everybody goes and sees these shows.
I think everyone should too. People ask all the time, like, what can we do as a whole family on our Disney day? Dude, shows all day long. You can make
Shows all day. Don't make the mistake that the shows aren't as good as the rides. They're phenomenal. Enjoy them with your whole family. Make those core memories with your babies so that when they're older and they may choose to have babies, you can recreate them with them because gosh, these are the things that you can have lifetime span of memories. You know, you always have that memory of the first time your kid is tall enough to ride an attraction, but your memories with the shows start when they're babies. So it's really a different thing. It's a different experience, different vibe. I love it so much. Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, stop what you're doing and leave us a review. Rank us 5 stars, rate us 5 stars, give us that. And recently, our listener, Kat Berger, said, love listening to this podcast. I booked my first adults only trip with my 2 sisters. I look forward to using all the great tips and tricks I've learned from this fun and informative podcast. Thank you, Kat Berger. And while we did talk a lot today about how these shows are good for your little ones and your family, we also talked a lot about how, hey, if you're on an adult trip, go see the Frozen sing-along, go see these fireworks, go enjoy these shows. You can really level up your Disney vacation. That is going to do it for this episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. And until next time, we'll see you real soon.